Uh, I'm Yvette Sealy-Jones, and I'm a member of the digital learning team with Anglophone School District West. Welcome to LEARNeast 2021, and we're in session B1, Sway as a Creativity Platform. We want to welcome Waylon Dixon, also a member of the digital learning team with Anglophone West. Thanks for taking the time to share your expertise with us. Just a reminder to check to make sure your mics are closed. You may leave your video on if you wish. If you have any questions during the session, we will actually answer them during the session instead of at the end. So pop it into the chat or open your mic, Derek. You can ask a question there instead of using chat, and we'll be happy to answer them if we can. All right, Waylon, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Yvette. Welcome to all of you who have joined today. So we're going to look at Sway, and I'm going to share my screen right away here. So this is kind of what the plan will look like. And maybe, Yvette, you can give me a thumbs up when you can see that screen.
We got it.
Okay. So I've kind of laid out a little bit of a roadmap for myself to stay on track. And so what we're going to look at today is how to get started with Sway right away. It's a quick start strategy, I call it, because a lot of times in the classrooms or for anybody really, we kind of get lost in the technology and we lose kind of a grasp of what the learning outcomes are, what the content is. So I want to really help teachers and students get their message across quickly and then let the technology enhance it. So we're going to focus on that. We're going to go over the different types of building blocks or the types of content that you can add to a Sway. A Sway is really a presentation tool. I guess I should have started there. It's somewhere kind of like if a PowerPoint and a web page got together. It's part of the Office 365 suite, so it's free to all our students and teachers. And it's online. It's web-based, so it's not an app and it's not something you download. It's all done through a browser, so you can access it anywhere. And then also back to what we want to do is that once we've created this, we want to know how to share it, and that can be shared within our organization, within New Brunswick Education, or we can share it publicly, so that could go home to families or out to the communities at large. But what I really want to emphasize is that the magic is not in the Sway itself, but it's more about what we can do with it. So where we kind of have this traditional sense of handing paper and pencil reports or the endless PowerPoints, there's much more that we can do with this where it is web-based and can be put out in a lot of different formats and can be accessed by any device. So it can be lessons. It could be remote lessons, which we had a lot of experience with last year. It could be the newsletter that we normally send home as a piece of paper. Reports, we're going to do a class set of reports that all look the same, not now. With Sway, they can be enhanced with different media. Different things, do your resume or portfolio, anything like that. So that's the kind of, when we're going through this, while I am going to show you how to build one, that's not the important part. It's the creativity. It's the ideas of what can I do with this once I have this tool in my toolkit. And again, don't focus on trying to remember everything about how to build a Sway. I'm going to go over some basics, but if you ever needed help, you could always reach out to myself or any of the other digital leads for a refresher or another session. We'd even work with your classes on how to build Sways. So what I'm going to do now is I just want to show you a couple of examples. So here's an example of a storybook that was created in Sway. And you can see on this page, it's web-based, so it has its own URL here that's kind of ugly. But this one, you can navigate through slide by slide, and you'll notice that there's a stack of pictures here that you can click through. Right, so that's kind of different. This is an elementary class that recreated the Three Little Pigs as a Sway. If I go to another one, this would be one that this was a report I did for a course I was taking on flipped learning, which looks pretty boring as a Word document, but if I transform it into a sway, you'll see that I've got this nice web page that is easier to send to people and visually looks a little more engaging. And you'll see that I'm able to not only embed images, but I also have a video. So in this part of my report where I talk about cognitive load, I've actually embedded a video that explains what cognitive load is. So if you need that piece of information, right, to make sense of what I've written here, you can click on that. Another one, this is kind of the traditional, who am I? This could be we get students the first day or the first week of school to, talk about themselves, write a little piece about themselves. Well, they could do it as a sway and share that with their teacher, right? So there's my golf, hockey, reading, and making. So I've, things I like. And then my last one here is, my pal Petey, who's actually sleeping next to me right now as we do this. Right, and you'll see I've put different things with PD in here. And what's really neat about a sway is that it's actually, I'm showing you this on my computer screen, but one of the nice features of sway is that it actually does the reformatting for any device that you're using. So if you want right now, I invite you to maybe hold your phone up and scan this QR code, and you'll actually see that the sway will reconfigure the layout and the images and everything so that it always looks good no matter what device you're using, whether it be a tablet or a computer or your phone, right? So just leave that up for 5 seconds if you want to do that. 3, 4, 5. And right, so you scroll through it, right? So it's kind of neat that way. So when you're sending things, for example, if I had built a newsletter and I wanted to send this home for a lot of people are using their phones these days. They don't sit at a computer to consume their media. Very quickly, my newsletter will look fine on someone's phone, as it will on the computer, as it will on their tablet. And it's, again, the magic is all done by sway. We don't have to be coders or have to play with a whole bunch of different settings to get this to happen. The sway recognizes what it's being viewed on and does it for us. So that's really great. So one more example. This is what I'm working on. This is I'm working on the idea that we used to do recipe books in classes, and every student would make their own recipe and they'd type it up or they'd do a PowerPoint and things. But now we can do it digitally, where we can take all these recipes and make them into sways. So for example, and I'm just going to do this in a private window because it's going to show you the, I want to do a new incognito window. We'll do this. If I open up this sway, let's say I want to do the garlic ribs. Here is my recipe, right? The page. So this is what you need to know, the details. I actually put in where I got this recipe. And so I've got my ingredients, and you see I've got images here for all my images, for all the ingredients rather, not all my images. Salt and pepper, I need a little soy sauce, some garlic. I think that's mustard. I can't remember now. Brown sugar, all good stuff, right? So that's kind of a neat way to display the project, as opposed to, again, the PowerPoint, which you can't really send home, right? But we can send this link home for all our parents to see, and the recipes that the class has created. So that's kind of where we're at. What I'd really like you to do is think about where you might use this. And again, free for our teachers, free for our students. We're going to start with the easy to make strategy, quick strategy. How do we get started real quick? I'm going to share a different screen here. I want to share not this browser. I want to go this browser, this one, this one, this one. We start with Word. So we all have our, there's two ways to start actually, but you can start with a PDF file. I like to start with Word because that's what our students have. And if I open up Word here, Word Online, and I'll see my most recent here, how to build a sway. So again, as I mentioned, we want to focus on the content. And sometimes I know in the past when I've done projects with students and say, I want you to do a presentation, I want you to do a PowerPoint, there's so many features in PowerPoint, there's so many tweaks, and you know, they want to try all the fonts and they want to try all the colors and they want to bring in all the images and they want to do the animations, right? The worst one was the typewriter introduction. Every letter came in one at a time. The presentation was 25 minutes long. But this way, if we start with Word, we're focusing on the content. We're not focusing on the technology. We're not focusing on how to change the colors and how to do transitions and all the things that kids get lost in. You know, they'll spend, you know, if you give them 3 periods to build it, they'll spend the first 2.5 periods just playing on 1 or 2 slides and never getting the content. So we focus on the writing and we say, okay, before we get to sway, open up Word and let's write what it is. And I can review this and they can share this with me and we can do a back and forth on editing. And when we've agreed that it's ready to go to the sway step, then they can go there, but not until we've actually focused on building our content, writing their story. So if I start with my online, now I can do this with online, or I could do it with the Word, the local app. I can do it either way. But if I start with Word Online, so I've done my writing, and you'll see that I have kind of my sections built out. So like each one of these, if you think about it in terms of like a PowerPoint, each one of these would be the start of a new slide. In Sway, we call them cards. So you'll see that I've got my headings here. Use transform. Actually, it's not transform anymore. It's export. I'm going to change my notes here. And we send this to Sway. Now, the way I do this is that the first thing I'll do is I'll say, okay, this is a key point. And what I'm going to do is change the style here. This is going to become heading 1. And I have to do this when I use Word Online. I don't have to do this so I use my local installed Word application, but I'm going to do this with Word Online. So again, I change the style. So if I go here and I say, I want to change the style here, nope, it's home, my style button. So this, yeah, heading 1. So that's going to be another card for me. You'll see here, I'm going to use export. That is basically what I'm doing is establishing the layout of my sway. Change the look. That is a heading. How to share. This is a heading. Excuse me, I'm gonna cough here. And changes, all heading 1. So what I've done is by, you'll see what this does in a second, is I've basically established the flow of my sway. These are all the sections. And yeah, again, you can think of them as new slides if you want. So once that's done, all I have to do, and again, the magic is all done for us. When I go to the file button and you'll see export as an option. So I'm going to click on export. And then all I have to do is transform to a web page and Sway will open automatically. Now I'm just going to, I like to pick just the plain one here and say transform. And it's taking my Word document and all those headings and creating a sway for me. And so now if it, at the very least, I could publish, I could send this, I could share this, I'm done. I can share this online now, right? I have a web page with all my content. But let's say I want to make it a little prettier. You'll see that I have an edit button. So I'm going to click on the edit button. And what that's doing is going to bring me into the background, right? The bones of my presentation. So I'm in the Sway application. And again, this is part of the Office 365 suite. And if it's not in your list here, mine's listed here, right? But if you don't see it, you could go to, you hit your little waffle, and if you go to Office 365, or if you looked at all apps, you could find Sway in your list. Okay, I'm just going to close that again. So here we are in the background of Sway, and you'll see that we have two modes here. We have storyline and design. Okay, so this is the storyline mode, where we have these are called cards. Each section is called a card. So there was my title, right? So this is my title card, and then this one is my text card, and then you'll see that now I have my Start with Word Online. That was one of these sections that I had highlighted and made the larger heading 1 style. So you'll see that it has a heading card and then a text card. So it automatically recognized the text that I had below. And so there's my use export section, and you see that it's done that for each section. Okay. Now I can say, okay, I need to make this more. So I'm going to grab this one. So I can add sections to this, or add cards to this. We talked about adding building blocks. So for example, one of my key points here is that it's a mix between a PowerPoint and a web page, used to publish stories, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to add, you see if I click the little plus button, I want this is going to go below how to build a Sway and before this text card. So I just hover over that, and I'll see the plus sign. So I click on it, and I have choices. I can add another heading. I could add just a plain text, or now I can start to add some different media. So that's also here. But I can grab and just put in an image. So as soon as I click this, it gives me an option to search for images. And you'll see that it's actually scanned my text to give suggestions about what I might want to look for. So if I click on Sway, it's going out there, and look, it knows what I'm looking for. And these images are all vetted, sorry, not vetted. They're copyright free, right? They're free to use, so you don't have to worry about infringement. So I'll grab this one. So as soon as I select it, you'll see that I have one selected. I can click add, and it puts that image in my presentation. Now, if I want to quickly see what that looks like, I'm just going to come over here and click the play button. And now I see, oh, already it's looking better, right? It's added that in there. Now I'm going to click the edit button again. Maybe I want to add one more picture below that. And I also want to mention that it's part of Office 365 or Microsoft 365. So if I do M365, I think that will give me some type of scooter. Let's change that to Office 365. Here we go. So now it's giving me a better selection. So I'll click that. And again, if I go back to play, see it, okay. Now I'm getting some graphics or some images rather that support my presentation. If I go a little further, I say start with Word Online. I want something that represents that. So again, I'm going to click the little on the card. So again, it always goes below the one I've selected. I'll say insert image again. And this time I will say Word. Perfect. And I will add that. So that's pretty straightforward. I can add other types of media. So I'm going to go down below adding content. And this time maybe I'm going to click on the media option to show you that not only can I insert images, but I can insert video. So if I click video, and now I can search Word. Now there are suggestions here, but I can also go right to YouTube. So again, it's going to automatically make some choices here for me. But if I directly go to YouTube here from this list, you'll notice that I can upload from OneDrive, or I can even upload something from my computer. If I have a video that I recorded, I could put it there. But if I click YouTube and I type in Sway, let's type in Sway Office, you'll see that there are Sway videos here. So this guy's pretty good. I like his videos. I'm going to add that. And now if I click play, you'll see that I now have embedded a video in my Sway. No fuss, no muss. I don't have to know any coding. It's really quite easy. I'm going to go back to the edit mode again. Change the look. I'm going to add, in this case, if I go back to media, you'll notice that you can add audio. And in this case, if I had an audio file on my computer, maybe something that I created with Audacity or an MP3 or a WAV file that I had on my computer, I could put that here. I can also record my own voice. So I could write an explanation, I could record an explanation or some support information to go with this slide. Okay. This may not work right now because I have my mic. I'm not even going to do that because I'm already using my microphone. But that's so you can, again, if I want to take it out, I just click on the little trash can here. And that's adding media. What was the other one? Embed. So this is kind of, you could actually put your forms. So if I had built a Microsoft form, I could, there's an embed code that comes with that. I could put my quizzes or a follow-up form in my presentation if I want to do that. But I'm going to go back to images for a second, just because I want to show you, if I do the group, these are all the ways I can group images. And I can do this after. So, but you see that there's the automatic one. I've just been doing that. But there's also, I can do a grid or a comparison, a stack or a slideshow. I just want, this is so neat. I just do want to show you that. So I'm going to go to image again. And let's go back to a Bing search. And this time, because I'm going to do, let's for a quick second, pretend I'm talking about my dog again. And I'm going to go dog. And I'm going to show two different dogs. Or actually, I'm going to show some different dogs. I'm going to click on one. You'll notice that I can actually do more of a selection now. So I'm going to add 4 dogs. So I've got 4 selected. If I didn't want one, I could click on it again. Maybe I want this guy. And I'm going to add. Now, if I click play, it just kind of puts them all in a row. So that's not really what I want. What I can do now is, if I expand this, you'll see that I've got them all here. I'm going to click the group button. And the group lets me choose how to display these. So if I click the stack, and then I'm going to do a little preview, you'll see that now they look like a stack of cards or a stack of photos, just like we would hold in your hand in the old days. And as I click on them, it slides through them. Or if I want to see it full screen, right, I can do that. Exit of this, and I'm back to my slideshow. If I change the group type again, right, I can do the slideshow. I'll do it this one with the preview at the bottom. And I'll transform. And you'll see that the different images are displayed in this panel at the bottom. And again, I can navigate through them. And one more time, we'll go through one more group type. I like the comparison. And what you'll see here is that you can actually slide, it'll show them side by side because there's more than one. If I actually, I'm going to go back out and I'll take out this one, and I'm going to take out this one. let's say I just want to compare these two. And I'm going to select them both. And instead of group type, oops, actually, I'm going to start over. I'm going to do this. I'm going to add my images. I'll grab this one and add them. And I don't want a slideshow. I want to change my group type. Close this. Sorry, I'm going to try this one more time. Group type, there we go. I want to do a comparison. I'm going to add my two images again. This one and this one, add. And now when I preview it, it gives you the nice slider. Whoops, went too far. A little slider so I can go back and forth between them, right? So this would be good for a before and after type picture. Or again, you know, I'd invite you to imagine your own uses for that. Now I've been going at a pretty rapid pace for about 20 minutes now. Yvette, do we have any questions, or how's things going in the background there?
No questions in the chat yet. Does anybody want to add a question? It's a quiet group.
Mesmerized.
Totally.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to go back to that. I'm going to go back to the edit mode one more time. So again, very easy to add content to this and change the look. But again, we're kind of looking at this one way, the default view here. But we have this other modes. Remember, as I said, there's two modes here. The storyline mode, which is what we've been working in with all the cards, right? And I can rearrange these. I can drag these around if I want, delete, add more. But then we have this one, the design mode. And when I switch to design mode, right, it looks like I'm in my sway, but I have this little styles button over on the top right. So when I click on that, this is where I get to change the formatting, and they give me a bunch of options, right? But again, I love just to come over here and click this remix button. And as soon as I click on the remix, it just goes through and grabs a bunch of different styles and puts them together, right? And now if I play that, I say, oh, that's kind of different. I like this font, right? Oh, and I like those two images side by side instead, right? So this is really good. I like that. And that was just a quick remix. If I click it again, it's going to go through and it gives me another option. And I can preview it here, right? So you'll see that it has a vertical, which is kind of our traditional way we scroll through web pages, but there's also horizontal and then it slides. I traditionally like to flip that over to the not traditionally, what I really like to do is switch it to the traditional vertical, because I find most people are comfortable with that, and I think it looks better. But that's a personal thing. Now whatever I've gotten in the remix, I'll hit one more time. There's another remix. I can actually come in and customize this a little bit. Let's say I like this, but there's some other parts that I don't like. If I come in to customize, I can go in and change that a little bit. I can say, you know what? I have color inspiration. I have different color palettes, so I can change, instead of the blue, maybe I like a green, right? And I get a little bit different. I don't really like that green. Let's just see what else. Let's try this one. That's a little better. And I'll go to play. And again, without a whole lot of fuss and muss, I've given it a whole new look. Okay. So that's under the design mode. So, and styles. So if I close that, here we go. This is what it looked like. But I can do some editing actually while I'm in design mode. If I just click on here, you can see I can edit my text without having to go back to the storyline if I want to do that. Right, so again, very easy, but I didn't get lost in going through a whole bunch of menus or playing with a whole bunch of different features to get it to look a certain way. Just style, I go to my design mode, styles, hit remix, roll the dice, see what you get. I like this background. I don't like the horizontal. I'm just going to flip it to vertical. I like this kind of how it shows things as kind of cards or post-it notes on top of a background. Maybe I'll go with that. Okay. So once I'm happy with my sway, we get to that final bit where I'm going to share it. And we have all sorts of different options here. So what I'm going to do is I've got my sway the way I like it. I click my share button. And what we have here is 3 options to start with. I can choose specific people or groups. So I could just click on that and I could say, you know what? I just want to share this with Yvette. So I could just type in Yvette's email address. Yvette. That actually scans our directory, right? So she's the only one who would be able to see this. Right? And I could add more people. You see that now. If I added, I'll add Carm. There's Carm. I could add and just give those people a click invite. They're going to get an email that says you've been invited to look at this sway. And you'll notice here that I have an option here to say either view or edit. So we could actually collaborate. So I could turn on the edit option here. And when I click invite, Yvette and Carm will actually be able to go into this sway and make changes. So maybe this is a group project. Okay, so that's one option. I can also just put those those in your organization with the link. So for us, that means anybody in New Brunswick Education. If I say view, so when I send out this link, any teacher or student can view my sway. And again, I could either make it view or edit. Maybe I just want them to see it, right? So this could be our announcement for LearnEast 2022. And I've made a poster or basically an announcement, a website. And I could say, I'm going to send that out to all teachers. So I could send this link out, everyone can view it. The last one is anyone with a link. And this is what allows it to go public. So this allows it to go to our homes for our parents and guardians to view. This can go out to the community. Again, this could be a class newsletter. This could be, you know, a celebration of student work. I'll let your imagination run wild with that. But again, I click on the view option, anyone with a link, I copy that. I can send that out an email, or as I demonstrated at the beginning, you know, I could make it a QR code, right? And just display the QR code for people to scan. And they'll have access to that, right? So that's kind of it's easy to share. And the really nice part is that even after I've shared this, the worst thing is sending home the newsletter. And you know, we print off the newsletter at school, we put it in the agendas or the book bags, and they all go home, and then we realize that something has changed, right? The date of the concert has changed or whatever. And then we have to republish or reconnect with everyone and say, no, you've got the wrong date. If I send this home and there's a change, as soon as I make a change in the information, I say, right? There's been some changes. Maybe I say, add a heading here and say, new date. Oops, I'm gonna click on here. New date, September 4th. That's done. I don't have to republish. It's updated automatically. So even if they're using the old link, they still have the updated content. There's no need to alert them. When they look at it, they're going to have access to the most recent version, which is a nice feature when you're publishing online. So that's the big part. How are we doing for questions, Yvette? I see I've raced through it, which is good. Good for me, maybe not so much for the attendees.
No questions on here at the moment. Anybody have any questions or maybe some thoughts on how they might use this in their school or in their classroom or in their role?
Hi, it's Derek here. Hello, can you guys hear me?
Hi,
We
Derek.
can, Derek. Yes.
Hi. Yeah, He speaks. He has a voice. Yeah, no, really helpful. I was using this as a review of how to use Sway, but I think certainly it could be used as a PL, but as Waylon was pointing out, even as a newsletter, as any way to communicate, it's really it seems pretty versatile. But my first thought is for PL, but I know that it's much more than that. So
it's funny, Derek, when I saw you come in, the first thing I thought of was kind of, it's a traditional thought, but science reports.
Mm-hmm.
And a neat way for students, instead of doing a lab report on a piece of paper, this might be an interesting way for students to demonstrate or do a write-up. Right?
I agree. Yeah.
Taking pictures of their setup, taking pictures of their list of ingredients or materials, even recording a short video of their results. Right? What happens when they did this?
Yeah, and I like that point because you tend to think of it initially as you're doing it as like this big presentation style, like some formal presentation, but it could be much more of a routine thing,
Yeah.
like a lab report or so many different, possibilities. But yeah, it's something that you could use much more regularly than just some big presentation.
Yeah, and I go back to the days when I did teach science and getting lab reports, they were all more or less the same, right? Or if you ask someone to write a paper on whatever, after about the fourth or fifth one, your eyes get a little bleary, and there really wasn't, you were looking to see, did this student copy off another student? Right, you're like, because they're supposed to look exactly the same, and that just got a little bit monotonous. But if a sway was the assignment, the differences would be what you celebrate.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know this, but I just feel like this generation tends to work very well with this kind of thing, with putting in images and videos and that kind of thing. It's more along the ways of how they communicate using their social media, for example.
Right.
So
Right.
it does seem to fit that age group as well as something they'd be interested in doing, and be a lot more dynamic than, you're right, you do these presentations, or you ask rather for reports, and you get the same thing 25 times.
Right.
It's a lot more creativity.
So and as we're talking here, I kind of had a few more thoughts. So a sway can be part of can be your integrated into teams as an assignment. So just while we talk about that, if I go to sway here and I start a new one, let's just use the science example, science report example. So if this is my lab report, and let's say I don't, I want some creativity, but I need some standard or consistent information. And let's say I just do, I'm going to do a couple of little things here. I'm going to do a heading one. So I do my, the purpose of our lab. And oops, it helps if I actually my mouse in there, cursor. So we have a purpose, right? And I put more text in here, blah, blah. And then we would have our materials, right? That sort of thing. Now, what I can do, for example, and I'll just put another more text in here. Let's say this was my general format for my sway, or my report rather. What I can actually do now is I can save this as a template. Okay, and as soon as I do that, this is my lab report template, and I save that. Now I can take that template and I could put that in my teams as an assignment, or just distribute that template however I do to my students. And then I've got they all have a starting point to work with, right? So at least I know that I'm getting the elements that are required, and how they enhance it is up to them. So that's one feature that I was thinking about, is the template to distribute instead of just saying go create a sway. The other one was again using it as an assignment in Teams, right? So you can actually, students can submit their links. So once they've clicked the share button, I'm going to go back to sway. Let me open one up again. I'll open my lab report. Once they click the share button and they grab this link, they can actually submit that in their assignment. If teachers are using Teams to collect work, students could just have to paste that link, and the teacher would have a collection.
Waylon, are you able to talk a little bit about the potential of sharing this with a small group of kids? Maybe if they're working on the same report, what might that look like?
Right. So we can use this as the example here. If I wanted to just if I just wanted to do this with, sorry, this is the template for some students. I could click share, and I would probably use the specific people and type in the student's name. So if I type in Allison, there's my daughter, and I'll type in, what's her friend? I'll type in St. Peter, right? So there's a couple of students. I could just click invite, and they would get the link to that sway. And then I would choose edit. And now it's a collaborative project for those two students.
And can they work on it at the same time?
That's the rub, is that
okay.
It's it doesn't flow very well that way. If I'm adding cards, and you kind of got to be careful, right? Like, it's almost, we're collaborating, but we have to kind of time it.
Right. Okay. Great.
But which is really what collaboration is, because sometimes we do things in a way where we call it collaboration. It's really like, I'll do my part, you do your part, and then we'll stick them together, which is not really collaborating on them. So this is nice in that if we discuss our purpose, and I say, okay, let's do our collaboration real time. Let's talk about it. And, we could do some screen sharing, and I say, what do you think I should put here? Blah, blah, blah. Or maybe we do that face to face, and then I go back later and do it. Right. Perfect. Does that make sense? I think that's.
Any other questions from the group? Okay. Oh, we got someone coming in. Ed, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was going to ask Waylon, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
If the students were sharing, like we're watching this video, can you pass control of the screen from one to the other so that they can actually work in real time with one another?
Oh yeah. Yep.
There you go. Okay.
So, and we would do that through Teams.
Yeah.
Right. So in this case, if I were doing, let me bring up this session here. I could give you control, because we've created the meeting, we have control over it, or Jeff did. But we can share control of the screen, so I can actually do this. We do this a lot in our role, where I'll say, give me control of your computer, right?
Yeah.
And so that is in our, I'm just trying to find that if I have that.
That's fair. I just wondered if that was a limitation of Sway, but I mean, if it is in Teams, just like it is in Google or any other of the sharing app.
Right. Yeah.
If I know that I have control of it and I can edit a piece and you can watch me changing it, once I hand control back over to you, I'm not overwriting that change, right?
Right.
It's a sequential thing.
Right.
Perfect. Okay, great.
So, and the other nice thing in here too, let's not use this example, but let's go to maybe our flipped learning, because there's a lot of reading here. Remember that we do have an accessibility view here. If this visually was too much for somebody, we can go here and I can say accessibility view, and it will clean it up and take away some of that noise, I guess.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Right, nice and clean. I will mention, I'm going to bring up Word here. Where's my Word? I mentioned that we did this from Word Online, which I like to do because students are not always sitting at the same computer, so using it locally sometimes can be difficult. But if they're at home and they're on their own laptop or something like that, let's say they use Word, the installed application. Remember that we did this from, if I go back here to Word, Word, and I went File, and export transform to web page. But we can do the same thing in, here's the same file locally, right, in Word. And if I go File, you'll see here, it's export as well. Oh, no, it's not. Wait, oh no, sorry. When I had, that's my problem, right? So here's my local file. No, this isn't my local. So here's my local file down here. But if I'm in Sway and I want to use a, I want to go Sway, edit. I'll start a new one. Sway. Let's say I want to go start from a document. Let's say I have something already created. I can upload directly, right? I can grab that Word file this way. It'll actually scan PDFs as well. But if I grab the Word file, let's say I'm not working online, I have an actual doc saved on my computer, it will grab it and import it for me. I just thought I'd mention that. That was the other little tidbit. So you can start either way. You can start in Sway and import a document, or you can go to Word Online and click the export button.
That's great. Thank you. Any other questions from the group?
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, I hope, so there's a lot of ideas out there that I haven't mentioned. Again, it's not about the tool. It's really about what is it that you're trying to communicate or present and put out there on the web for students or teachers. Like I said, newsletters, science reports, whatever it is. Don't get bogged down in the technology. And again, if you have any questions, you can reach out to myself or Yvette or any of the digital learning leads. And we would love to help anyone working with this or trying to bring this into your class.
That's great. Thank you, Waylon. I just see Sarah typing something. I don't know if it's a question or just a oh, thank you. Thanks, Sarah. That concludes today's session. On behalf of LEARNeast and our participants, I want to thank Waylon for taking the time to share with us today. Just a reminder to please click on the link in the chat to be eligible to win one of several door prizes at this afternoon's closing session. Join us at 3:45 to find out if you will be a lucky winner. So I've got the link here in our chat. Hopefully you've all seen that. And again, thanks so much, Waylon, for sharing everything about Sway. It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, thanks, guys.